Hey guys, Toby Mathis here, and today we're going to be going over how to start a nonprofit, and who better to talk to than somebody who's actually started and operated a nonprofit. And so I wanted to bring in Dave Rafus. Hey, Dave, welcome back.
Well, thank you for having me again.
And Dave's been with us for a lot of years. He's One Veteran Foundation, and I wanted to ask him a few questions that will be helpful to other folks out there. And so the first one, Dave, and Dave's is a veteran Marine. But what was the moment that you had that made you say, I need to create a nonprofit?
Um, Basically, it was the whole theme and idea came out of I was sitting on the couch one night talking with my wife, and the name One Veteran popped in my head, and I just couldn't let it go. So my wife's like, "You're not going to let this go. Go buy the domain name, and we'll go from there." And the idea for One Veteran, we found out we had to add foundation to it because you couldn't buy just One Veteran on a .com. So it came out of me personally being diagnosed with PTSD.
Hmm.
And when that happened, my life and world changed because I had been fighting that diagnosis for years. When we came up with the One Veteran, it was to show that one veteran can make a difference, one voice can make a difference. So we bought the domain name, and I kind of sat on it for a little while. And my buddy and I were out riding motorcycles one day, and I was telling him of this idea that I had for a nonprofit. And he was like, "Why aren't you doing it?" And I said, "Well, it takes money, and the IRS likes it, and I don't have it." He goes, "Well, how much do you need?" And at that time, I think it was like $400. And he goes, "Oh, hold on." And he takes it out and hands it to me. I didn't know he had $400 on him. And his girlfriend at the time was a bookkeeper and knew how to file for these. So on Thanksgiving Day, 2015, she went online and applied for a 501c3 for us. And this was at a time when veteran charities, conservative charities they were just getting the runaround from the IRS. 8 days later, I think it was at the beginning of December, we were notified by the IRS that our C3 had been approved and we got our EIN. Completely threw me off. I thought I had 6 months to build something. I had a week to put something together. I was invited to the Military Order of the Purple Hearts meeting for the month of December. I made a pitch that we were going to be a charity that would be a consolidation point for veteran charities so that they could all talk to each other instead of whispering in the wind in different directions. And at the end of it, I kind of put this little clause is, "Oh, and we're going to help pay for service dogs." And when we did our first event in January, that little clause of, "Oh, and we're going to help pay for service dogs," is what everybody in the community keyed in on. So we were like, this is the part that we need to focus on. And in the 10 years that we've been doing this, because next week will be our 10-year anniversary for filing for our C3, we've trained over 60 something service dogs. I can't remember, I've lost track. And we have not had a single suicide from any of our veterans. All of them are still here. We had one that went to the University of Utah with his service dog for medical school and is now a physician assistant. So there are positive results to helping people with nonprofits where you find the need, you fill the need. And that is something that I would tell everybody. If you want to start a nonprofit, fill the need. There's going to be a gap in your community where people need help. Don't be afraid to be that person. So that's
And
kind of where the foundation came from.
all right, so it was an idea you had, and you said, I want to help veterans, and you're using service dogs. You're training and providing service dogs to veterans to prevent suicide. And by the way, if anybody out there is not familiar with this, service dog seems to put the kibosh on veteran suicide if you can get them paired up with somebody who's suffering. from depression or post-traumatic stress disorder, right?
Mhm.
But for again, anybody out there listening, I think what David put very eloquently is, yes, you can make a difference, and anybody can, and it doesn't have to be the United Way or Red Cross. It could just be at a local level. Now, you mentioned how you started. You talked to a bookkeeper who went out and filed, and I assume when they did the 501c3, they got the EIN and the state, but you still have to do that lengthy the 1023 and get your exemption.
Yeah,
And
you jump through a lot of hoops with the IRS and bookkeeping and accounting. And what I don't think a lot of people understand is that a nonprofit is a corporation. You have to run it like a business because you have to answer to the IRS, you have to answer to the state tax people, you have to do a lot of the things that are required, just like you're running a business. So, is it worth it? I think it is. There are a lot of people that get into it and then they find out how much work does go into this. And they're like,
you, you're running a business. It just happens to be a business that you do not own, society owns,
yeah,
and it's for the benefit of. It could be religion, it could be science, it could be sports, it could
yeah.
be veterans. Anything that is feeding people, helping people, curing, anything scientific could actually qualify as a nonprofit. It's always wild. But in your process of doing this, was there something you wish you had done differently? Is there something like if you were talking to yourself 10 years ago and you said, hey, Dave, this is going to be tough. Do this instead. What would you be telling yourself?
Gosh, there's so many things. I would say the biggest thing is when you have a nonprofit in the community, everybody wants to help. They're all like, yep, this is great. I'm there for you. I'm going to volunteer with you. Um, Screen them a little bit better than what you think you need to. I have had individuals that have come in and go, yep, I want to help. And they'll show up at one event and they tell everybody about how they work and volunteer with this nonprofit, elevates their status. You call them up and say, hey, we have another event. Oh, I can't, I'm busy. Well, but you said you wanted to do this. Yes, I know. I'll be there next time. Call them next time. Hey, we have an event. I can't, I'm busy. And the thing is with volunteers, I mean, their heart is in the right place. It really is. But their time schedule is generally not. So when you take on volunteers, be careful who you take on because they will represent your brand. And when you have a nonprofit, that's what it is. It's a brand. It's a company with a brand and a logo and a heart and a soul. And people in the community, when they see your brand, they equate that with you. So the thing I would say is when people say, I want to volunteer, take it with a grain of salt. Don't have super high expectations until they show that they're actually going to do it.
It sounds like some people do the stolen valor thing. Like they just want to be associated, but they don't actually want to put the work in. Let's flip this on its ear. How about the people that provide money? How do you find your donors? What's been your biggest
But
challenge?
the biggest challenge is, and I hate saying this, but it's been proven time and time again, the wars are over. Afghanistan, Iraq, they're over, except for the people that come home. It comes home with them. Not all of them, but quite a few of them. And when the wars were going on, it was at the forefront of people's minds. It was on the TV. People were like, hey, let me write you a check. That was great. War's over. For lack of a better term, it's kind of an afterthought. Now that everybody's home, people don't think about the guys that have come home. And it's not that they don't care. It's just not in the front of their mind because the news doesn't cover it 24/7 the way they used to. So the donors dry up. They don't write checks the way they used to. I'm very thankful that in the 10 years, I have built a network of groups and people that I do stay in touch with because if you communicate with them, they'll communicate back with you. You will have some that will ghost you, but you will have people that will communicate with you. And like we have a golf tournament coming up from a gentleman who shot down 3 enemy aircraft, and every year he hosts a military golf tournament. And we have been blessed enough that the Splash 3 golf tournament donates to us. Um, we have some corporations that they will write checks to us, but the funding has dried up so much that I ended up starting a coffee company to help take a portion of that money to put it towards the foundation to be able to help the vets, because the vets still keep coming. They still keep coming and asking for help and things like that. So
Sounds like your service dog says, "Hey, I have a couple things to say too."
yeah, no, they're out there. Somebody just rang my doorbell.
Right.
So
Let's shift gears a little bit, because you have people that are supporting your organization. It sounds like you're saying, "Hey, you may not just be able to walk up and people hand you checks. You might have to, you might have to be a little creative about it." And it sounds like you've done a lot to continue to raise money, which I think illustrates your point that anybody could do it, but it is going to be a little bit of work. Now, if what has surprised you? Like, is there anything that's that occurred while running this that nobody even warned you about, that was just such a surprise? Maybe a good one and a bad one.
um the good surprise is people in America really love and care for their vets. No matter your political background, whatever your background is, people really want to help and support their veterans. And that has been an awesome thing for me to see. When we do our community outreaches, we don't do fundraisers, we do meet and greets, where we go out there with very little expectation of raising a specific dollar amount, but raising awareness of what people go through. That's why we do meet and greets, not fundraisers.
Mm-hmm.
While we're there, people learn about what we do. They get to meet some of our veterans and their dogs. And people then are they want to give as much as they can possibly afford to give. And I tell them, give, but don't hurt yourself. You
Mm-hmm.
know, at one event, we had an individual that came up to us that was homeless. It was obvious that he was homeless, and he reached in and took $1 out of his pocket and was upset that that's all he had to give. And he goes, "This is all I have to give, but I want you to have it." It was $1, but it was all that he had.
Mm-hmm.
So here's an individual that's never met us, doesn't know anything about us, but was walking by and saw the crowd and came in, took the last dollar this man had and gave it to us to help pay for a service dog for a veteran that needed it. That level of caringness and givingness reaffirms my faith in humanity, because I have on a daily basis a number of people that make me question humanity and their kindness. Or is it all about me? Give, 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 and I'll take. And then you have an individual with nothing, literally nothing, giving me his last dollar and saying, "I wish I could do more," with a tear in his eye.
I
I
think
ended up feeding him that day to make sure he got to eat. So, I mean, in the big picture, we lost a little bit of money, but we did the right thing, because this is a man that gave all that he had to give and was willing to give up what little he had to help somebody else.
that's
For
a
me, that was like one of the highlights of our 10 years.
that's a
Um,
that's a pleasant surprise. What about a negative surprise?
the bookkeeper that we had that filed our paperwork, who volunteered her time, was very nice to your face, and behind the scenes was not doing the books, not filing the taxes, not getting me the paperwork that was needed for us to do this. and was kind enough to get us a $1,600 fine from the IRS, which she then told me not to pay because we're a nonprofit, they'll just drop it. So the thing is this nonprofit is linked to my social security number. I'm not willing to risk they're going to drop it. We
Hmm.
paid that fine. Well, we watched her after that to a certain extent. Should have been more, way more. Um, Towards the end of her time with us, she was sitting on like 2 years worth of paperwork.
Hmm.
IRS gets a little irritated when you don't give them their taste or their due. And when it came time for us to separate, I said, "Hey, I need all the paperwork back." She wouldn't give it to us. I needed the filings back. She wouldn't give it to us. She moved to Florida. She moved as far away from me as she possibly could because I was about to rain hellfire and brimstone down on her. I was about to call you and say, get her, because she had manipulated a number of things. And I'm not a bookkeeper. I don't know these things. I learned very quickly after this. When I have a bookkeeper now, we sit down once a month. We go through the numbers line by line, digit by digit. And the bookkeeper I have now is so amazing. She is awesome.
So you had
So,
somebody who was well intentioned, but perhaps was in over their head, and rather than say, "Hey, I'm in over my head and I don't know what I'm doing," kind of led you into some compliance issues. Which
yes.
in the world, like any business, you're going to have this. You just have to make sure you're watching your people. All right,
Yep.
this is one that I think most people that are listening would appreciate. If you were talking to somebody who walked up to you and said, "Hey, I'm really thinking about starting my I want to do something and give back in some way." And maybe it's veterans, maybe it's animals, maybe it's running a amateur volleyball team. I've done all of those, right? Um, what's one piece of advice you would give them?
I would tell you honestly, if you're thinking about starting a nonprofit, is just do it. Take that first step. You're going to make mistakes on the way, but if you don't do it, then who? Quite honestly, it's like when we started this because I needed a service dog. We found out that a service dog was going to be my saving grace. And we ended up getting Manifa, and she was my lifeline for a very long time. So if you're in your community and you see something that needs to be done, don't wait for somebody else to do it because they'll never do it. So make the effort, do some research. Hey, if you live in a small town in Texas and you know that in this small town in Texas, they don't have medical transportation to the next big city, start a nonprofit for transportation for individuals that need transportation to and from the hospital. Something that simple. You can set it up with the IRS, set it up in your community, and then just do what I do. Talk and never shut up. You tell everybody,
Make
you
awareness,
know,
awareness.
yeah, because the more people you tell, the more people you can help. And that's a big thing is service above self in giving to others. But don't let them take advantage of you because sadly in today's day and age, there are a number of people that do that.
And, and,
So
and,
you have to have a filter.
and and let's touch on that real quick. I'm a compliance guy. I'm a tax attorney, and this is stuff that we do in day out. Do not do this stuff in your individual name, right? So, like, how did you set
Right.
yours up? Did you set yourself up as a corporation and then go get your exemption and do all that? Or did you just, is it something you just said, "Hey, I'm just going to do this as me"?
When I first started, because I didn't know any better, I was like, hey, I really like this name. We're going to set this up. And then I started talking to people and we set it up as a corporation, because to have a nonprofit as a corporation, you get the protection of the corporation because even though you're a nonprofit, people will threaten to sue you. And you get all the protections of the corporation. And then the nonprofit status is a tax ID, basically, is from what I can tell people. It's like being a corporation that is a nonprofit, that doesn't mean I can't pay employees. It doesn't mean that I can't market and advertise. Um, it means that I have the ability to pay them, and we just don't pay taxes on certain things because we're a nonprofit.
Yep.
And it's been really beneficial setting it up as a C corp. State kind of leaves me alone. Federal government now leaves me alone because I've been doing this for so long. Every year we always file our 990 because we do have less income yearly, as because like with the IRS, I believe it's 50,000 and below, you do a 990, and 50,000 and $1 and above, you go into a 27-page tax form. So
It's the 990N as a postcard. Like, people think that the tax compliance is hard. If you raise less than $50,000 a year, it's a postcard. It's literally a 5-minute postcard where you're just letting them know, hey, we're below this threshold, leave me alone. If it's
yeah,
more than that, then you get the extensive 990 that you're reporting how much is everybody making and all this fun stuff, because they want to make sure there's no shenanigans going on. Dave, I'm just going to say this. It's like, compliance wise, there's the state and there's the Fed. The state is, I set up a nonprofit corporation with the state. I get a federal tax ID, and then I apply for exemption. So people
yeah,
understand there's really three things. It's filing with the state, getting the tax ID, and then filing either it's a 1023 or a 1024 application, saying to the feds, I am an exempt organization. I'm carrying out a charitable activity. And I would just say, like, did you try to do that on your own the first time? Because I'm always going to say use a professional for that. But were you able to
no,
do it?
when we started, the reason why I was surprised the IRS pushed us through so quickly was I had basically a one-page document that I sent to the IRS. It was horrible when I look back at it. And then I contacted Anderson and I said, hey, I need some help. And we got this.
Hmm.
So now we are completely compliant with everything the IRS and the state wants to know. So the thing that I would honestly tell people is one of the best things we did was getting an outside director, which, in full disclosure, it is Toby. When we have questions with legal issues or things that might be construed as conflict of interest or whatever, we then ask, I'll ask Toby. I just send him an email and ask him a question. That has taken a tremendous amount of stress off of me because there's no way I have time to know every law that comes down. This is what you do for a living. And I, I, there would be no way that I could keep up with all of that. You have an entire team full of people that do this. Um, but having an outside director gives your nonprofit a perception or air of credibility and elevates you. So when people find out that, yes, you do have a board, just like you would with a corporation, and you have an outside director that is observing to make sure everything is on the up and up, people will give you extra money just because of stuff like that. I found out.
Yeah, there's a fear that a lot of people have a nonprofit and they're just using it for themselves. I mean, we saw some of the allegations that are out there on some of these larger, whether it's
Yep.
the buying mansions in LA, or the money's being funneled to bad
Yep.
places. And what's interesting is the small mom and pops. My experience, because I've done thousands of these, is that the small mom and pops, if anything, they sell themselves short. They never take a salary. They never compensate themselves. They're always just doing something that's a labor of love, and they've organized it. And I'll relate this back for everybody. There was a Milton Hershey, and he and his wife, the Hershey Bar. That's how you'll know it. But 1905, I believe it was, when he set up his foundation. He and his wife didn't have kids, but they wanted to make sure that especially orphaned boys under the age of 18, knew how to take care of themselves. And so they opened an agriculture school. That school is in existence to this day. And that foundation is worth, like, it was over 12 billion last time I checked. But it started off modestly, of a husband and wife who just said, this is something as a need that I feel like I need to help with. And so anybody can do these things. Dave, you did a great job. And how many veterans have you now saved? Or
Um,
with the service dogs?
We are over 60. I think we're closing on 65 or 70. Um, and like we haven't had a single suicide. We had one gentleman that was on the edge. His dog pulled him back. His dog got him away from those dark thoughts because our service dogs are trained for specifically for PTSD issues, anger, anxiety, panic, aggression. These are all things that people with PTSD deal with on a daily basis. Um, Something as simple as petting a dog can pull a person back because it disrupts that thought pattern. And that's their whole purpose, is to continue to disrupt that thought pattern. So when the human body goes into depression or anger or anxiety, they undergo a hormone change when that happens. Well, dogs can sense up to 100,000 smells. And when they smell that smell from your hormones changing, the dogs will draw your attention to them. When you're out in public and you have a crowd situation, like this was used to be a huge problem for me, was I'd be in Walmart and we'd be walking towards an exit and everybody's coming in. You get a tidal
Right.
wave of people, which would cause me to stop. And my dog would get in front of me and walk in front of me and separate the crowd. And this happened to us when we were at a conference with 400 people, and when I found out how much my dog truly hated bagpipes, because we were sitting by a door and bagpipers came and stared the heck out of my poor dog. She was like, "What the is this?" And at the end of the conference, when they said, "Okay, hey everybody, thanks, we're going to be out in the lobby," everybody stood up, and she stood up and looked at me, and I was like, "Oh God."
Uh-huh.
And you want to see something hysterical, is watch a pit bull American bulldog mix clear a crowd, because she didn't do it aggressively. She just walked in front of me and just swung her head back and forth. If people weren't moving, when she would do this, she would goose them and then they would move. And she literally had me out of that room in about 90 seconds. I mean, she
Well,
literally just pulled right through the crowd.
y-
We got out into the lobby. We were fine because it was a much bigger room. So the more people, it wasn't a problem. When we would go shopping and I would have to turn to get stuff off the shelf, that could be a problem because people walk behind you all the time. Well, she would sit behind me. If somebody would get too close, she would stand up and bump into me to let me know somebody was there so that I didn't get startled. So these are what service dogs can do. When I would deal with night terrors, I'd wake up screaming and she would come and lay on me to wake me up to disrupt that thought pattern. Now I have almost none.
and this is what you provide for veterans, and that's like one thing I like you said earlier on, just do it. And that's something that I always say, that the most successful people I know, they do things and they find a way forward. A lot of people believe they have to either go big or go home, and that's not true. You can have a huge impact on your society just by you saying, "Hey," and if you just help one person, that's great. Sounds like you've helped 60 veterans deal
Yeah.
with pretty significant issues, and has helped stop just a blight in society, which is, like you said, the veterans come home and a lot of times out of sight, out of mind, and they're left alone in a situation that could be dire for them.
Yeah. And the thing, like I found, is people want to help. They just don't know how. And when you start your nonprofit, you're probably not going to know how, but you're going to figure it out really fast on the way because everybody wants to give you advice on how to do it. And I love the fact that they care enough to share that with me. And there are some that they have truly helped us. Um, right now, one of the local radio stations is actually, like, before I came on today, I was there and they recorded commercials for me for the nonprofit. They didn't charge me anything. They're fantastic. When people there at the radio station found out about what I do, they now just bring it up in conversation when they're on the radio. They're not charging me for it. And it's because when you're in the community and people see you're genuine and you truly want to help people, they're going to want to help you. So if you just step up and put it out there, you're always going to have somebody telling you you're an idiot. No, don't do this. You're going to be, there's always going to be negative people around you. And the best thing I can tell you to do is just deflect them. Because if you know in your heart you want to do good in your community, then don't let anybody stop you. If you believe in service above self, never let anybody step in your way. Find a way around them, find a way over them, but always try and give back to your community, because this is where you live. And the better you can make it for the community, the better it'll be for you. And that's what I would tell people if they're hesitant about starting a nonprofit.
Well, I really
So
appreciate you. I really appreciate you being so open and sharing very personal things for people. I hope that folks are getting at the strong takeaway. It's that if it's not you, then who, right?
exactly.
It's and anybody can make a pretty big difference. I'm just so thankful that I met you in that last 10 years, that you've done such great work. And it doesn't have to be the American Red Cross. It could be at a local level, and it could be something where you're helping out your community, which is great. And there's you fill in the blank for anybody out there thinking, well, if it's about feeding, or it's about trafficking, if it's about whatever, yes, you
Yeah.
can have an impact and you can do those things. Speaking of doing something, if somebody wants to support your organization, I will put it in the show notes, but they can also buy your coffee too. Is it okay if why don't you just say that website, and then I'll put that in the show notes as well?
So if they want to support the foundation, there's two ways they can do it. One is they can go to the oneveteranfoundation.org, and that's the number one veteranfoundation.org. Or if you're like me and you love your coffee, um, I own the Combat Coffee Bean, and they can go to the combatcoffeebean.com and they can order coffee. We do keep it in green bean form and roast it, bag it, tag it, and ship it all in the same day. So you're getting the freshest coffee. But we take a portion of all the coffee that we sell and we donate it over to the foundation to help continue to pay for service dogs, because they're not cheap. They run $30,000 to $50,000, and my organization has been able to keep the cost down to about $3,000 per dog. And it's because my entire board is volunteer. The only compensation they get is their cell phone paid for, and that's because the vets have to be able to reach out to them whenever they're in distress. So if you go to the combatcoffeebean.com and buy a bag of coffee, just know that you're helping a veteran attain a service dog with every bag of coffee that you buy.
Appreciate it, Dave. Guys, if you know anybody that could benefit from this information, please share it, like and subscribe, and put your comments for Dave below. And if you have an idea, throw it down in the comments. I'll take a look at those too. My team always looks. And anything we can do to help you, if you have something that you feel drawn to, will help you make it a reality. So, and Dave, again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming in and sharing, and I'll have you on again at some other time in the future.
All right. Thank you.